Welcome to the Agent Lead Source podcast with your co-hosts, Joseph Gonzalez and Jaime Resendez, I being Jaime Resendez. Joseph, how's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. I'm glad to be back. I think this is week 2 of coming back from being sick, if I'm not mistaken. Feel nice and healthy. Ran, like I told you earlier, ran 5 miles this morning. I was actually only pushing for 4, and I felt so good. I was like, let's go for another mile. Now, my knee didn't feel so good after, but the rest of my body and my mental state feels a lot better. So good. Anyway, how are things on your side?
I'm doing well. I did not do that. So we'll just completely bypass. We'll just say that it has been a great day so far, and it's going to get even better because 1, we're doing this podcast, but 2, we're covering a topic that has really helped your business and mine alike. And I think that there's a lot of different benefits to Facebook groups, which is what we're going to cover, that's going to help real estate agents throughout the country. Do you agree?
Yeah, fantastic. By the way, if you're watching this, if you've gotten a lead or a closing from Facebook groups before in the past, make sure you comment below and let us know. You can say close from a group, got leads from a group, whatever have you, because it's really interesting for us to be able to see other people who are doing it as we talk about it, and also show people, hey, this is really how this business can work as we talk through these things and some of these strategies. So if you've used any of these strategies we're going to go over, make sure you comment and let us know if you've used any of them.
Awesome. That's right. So the title of this podcast is Facebook Group Leads, how to get leads from Facebook groups for absolutely free. And that's not a typo. It's Facebook groups for absolutely free. It's, again, it's a topic that we have leveraged in our business just with what we do, but also we've deployed it with the strategies that we share with other real estate agents. So we wanted to bring that to this podcast because even though there's a lot of people that have heard of Facebook groups, not many people are active participants, and there's even a less amount of people that are actually leveraging Facebook groups for their business. So that's really where we wanted to start off and go into the distinction that really trips people up the most, and that is, what is the difference between a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and why are we stressing so much the importance of Facebook groups? So Joseph, can I kick that question over to you? What's the difference over Facebook pages and Facebook groups, and why would you favor one over the other?
Sure. So, back in, let's see, we're in 2020 right now. Let's say up until 2015, 5 years ago, Facebook pages were the thing, right? Facebook themselves actually pushed Facebook pages. They're like, get as many people as you can on your page, start a business page, whether you run a restaurant, you're a real estate agent, whatever you do, if you run a business, start a Facebook page. And it was awesome. All these people some people had hundreds of thousands, right? If not millions of people following their Facebook page. And then one day, Facebook just said, you know what? Facebook pages aren't really what we're trying to go for, because technically Facebook is a community, right? So they're trying to build these communities. And then now they're pushing out Facebook groups. They're like, do everything you can to get your Facebook group to grow. Get all the people in there. We'll help you start events inside your Facebook group so that you can notify people. You can make announcements. They've done all these things now. You can put units. So if you're teaching something, you can put units in Facebook groups. So I guess as you listen to me say this, 100% favor Facebook groups over pages, because pages you get, I think it's less than 1% now of people who actually see your content, or in a Facebook group it's slightly higher. But there are ways you can even increase that engagement and get people to see your material way far and above beyond 1% on a Facebook page. So Facebook groups are what I would call my bread and butter, and I know a lot of other entrepreneurs who have made a very significant amount of money and helped a significant amount of people through Facebook groups and not from pages. So hopefully that answers your question, Jaime.
No, that answers it perfectly. And I'll go a little step beyond that and just draw that distinction again, Facebook pages and Facebook groups, because again, there's still, there may be a little bit of unclarity, even though there shouldn't, but we're going to continue going down that path. And when you're running, let's talk about Facebook ads for just 1 millisecond to delineate the two. Facebook business pages are required to run Facebook ads. So
Yes.
everybody has heard of Facebook ads at this point. So that's what a Facebook page is. And I think that's going to really solidify what the differences are. Facebook groups, those are the community pages. Those are just like everything on Facebook that doesn't end with ads. It's free to create. There's really not a limit on how many you can create. But at this point in time, when it comes to the reach, when it comes to the algorithm, when it comes to distribution, Facebook groups is being favored over pages. So it's not uncommon at this point in time to see some incredibly large businesses do away with their business pages when it comes to their management and really focus on Facebook groups, especially if it involves a software or an online service, like whether that be a CRM, whether that be any product that you can think of. They create community groups so people can create a community and help each other out. So there's that bigger adaptation of their software. So just wanted to provide an example of how larger companies are leveraging groups, which it's something that you can do very much the same strategies in your business.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's fantastic delineation between the two, right? A lot of people are confused. And people, even to this day, they come to me and say, hey, Joseph, should I start a group or a page? I want to run Facebook ads. The only way you can run Facebook ads is if you have a business page. You start a group, you really start a group if you want to create a community of people and you can get your content out to them and be able to communicate with them one-on-one or in a group, versus Facebook pages and running a Facebook ad. You're waiting for people to come to you because you paid for them, right? So pages, you can have them for free, but you got to pay to show people your content.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just drilling down a little bit further into Facebook groups, the way that I like to explain it, Joseph, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I like to think of Facebook groups or Facebook community groups revolving around a certain topic.
Mm.
And I'll give you an example. An example we were just giving, actually, we were sharing this podcast every which way, and we have groups respectively. You manage a few, I manage a few. So one of the groups that I dropped this particular podcast, this particular recording in, was my online real estate marketing for real estate. Mm-hmm. So that has a topic. You know what to expect when you join that community group. So I like to explain it as Facebook community groups revolve around a topic. Whether you join a group like the New Real Estate Agents group, well, it's incredibly large. So congratulations, Jennifer. But also it gives you an understanding of who it's for and a general understanding of what's going to be covered in that group. So I really want to start planting that seed early in this podcast, Joseph, because a lot of the strategies that we cover, they're going to start building upon each other. There's different rabbit holes that we can go down, but in our preparation for the podcast, I think that we identified a good little rubric that we're going to try our best to cover, but there's just so many different ways that you can slice the apple. But if you don't understand it from that from that topic standpoint, it's very easy to get lost.
Yeah. So I think let's go ahead and start going into, Jaime, some of the things that you want to talk about in regard to. All right. So Jaime just covered making sure you understand. There's typically, whenever you join a group, you should know what you're joining the group for. There are agents and there are business people who join all these groups. They don't even know why they joined them, right? And then because a lot of the groups will ask you questions like, why are you joining this group? And some of the people won't even answer the question. It's like, why did you request to join the group if you didn't really want to join the group, right? You should definitely know what you're getting yourself into. Or if you're creating a group, know what your end goal, what you want that end goal to be. So with that being said, Jaime, do you want to kind of jump into the next part of this topic and dive a little bit deeper?
Absolutely. So what's the purpose of this podcast? Well, it's to cover Facebook groups, but what's the purpose for you real estate agents? What do you want to get out of the groups? That's business. You want to get leads. You're coming to Facebook, and yes, you can socialize, you can do all that fun stuff, but at the end of the day, you want results. So results start off with leads, and then they end with commission checks, ideally. So the first part, that getting leads can manifest itself in many different ways. So let's talk about specific groups that you can join so that lead manifests itself into commissions at the end of the day. So going into two types of groups, very distinct types of groups. One of them is a buy, sell, trade type of groups. So if you haven't seen those types of groups around, there are large, massive Facebook groups out there that are, some of them are city-based, some of them are region-based, some of them are state-based, and that's all they do. They post buy, sell, and trade type of, it's basically, think of it like a large garage sale. So that's one general category. Now, another type of group is more real estate related. So this is rent, buy, not necessarily trade, but invest type groups. So those are two main categories. Those are two types of groups that you can leverage for real estate leads. Now, before we go any further, does that make sense? And sorry, I meant for you, Joseph.
Oh, I was like, oh, is the crowd talking to us? Am I confused right now?
We have somebody calling in right now, Joseph.
Yeah. Hello, this is Dave Ramsey.
Hi.
No, I think that makes sense, right? I mean, as you look at these processes, everything has to have you have to have a reason for joining things, and you have to have a reason for creating things, right? And if you're not taking the time to really dive into what you want to do as far as like getting leads and then those leads turning into checks, if you're not really thinking about that process and all you're thinking about is growing a group, then you're just going to be managing a group and wasting your time, right? So as you go in to create these groups or going to join these groups, there needs to be a process into doing that, right? So I don't know, Jaime, if you want me to go into my process right now and the way I think about things, or do you want me to say that for a little bit later?
No, it's perfectly fitting right now. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll give you guys an idea, and gals that are watching, right? You human beings. So the way I look at it is I go, okay, what is the thing that's missing in our industry in real estate, right? Can I fill that void? Can I do it myself? And if I can I then create a group in order to get people interested? 1, 2, people that understand so I can help them. 3, and then 4, can I help them actually grow their business and make money, right? So I look at that process and I say those things. So if I were a real estate agent and I were creating a group, I'd say, 1, are there things that I can talk about if I create a group that would interest people in my market? Yes, I can, obviously, buying and selling houses. 2, can I deliver information well enough and succinct enough that the people believe that I'm an authority figure to then want to work with me, right? And then after that, once I get them interested and I get the material to them, can I get them to get on a phone call with me? Can I get their email address? What can I do to help them so that they continue to want to be part of this group and continue to allow me to, 1, make money for myself, but also help them accomplish their goals, right? And if you can put those things and align those things and write them down or digitally write them down, put them in Google Drive or wherever you put them, you can start creating a Facebook group and grow it pretty quickly, right? Like, I mean, one of our groups is at 800 plus members. We didn't try super hard to grow that group, but we just had the right title and the right information that we're providing to people to get them interested, right? So, and I'll go deeper into the stuff that we do and how we, grow groups really fast. I could make this group 1,000 people by tomorrow if I wanted to, but that's not my goal. But I'll dive a little bit deeper into that a little bit later, Jaime. But again, make sure you know what you want to accomplish and know what your end goal is whenever you're doing this. It's not just leads, but it's also getting, as Jaime said earlier, getting the closings, right? Getting those contracts done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to park it there for a couple of seconds, because again, I don't want people to gloss over it, because here's what ends up happening. We get in a new idea, myself included, and we want to implement, and then we do some implementation because we heard it sounded great, but we don't take the time to really dig down and figure out what is our end goal. What do we want to achieve? We want to be strategic with what we're doing. So if we go out and create all these groups and then do no management, do no follow-up, then at the end of the day, you just have 100 groups with not much engagement, and a lot of frustration. And 6 months into it, you're frustrated and are saying that the strategy doesn't work because you weren't strategic with it. You didn't necessarily identify what you needed to do prior and have a strategy to deploy what you're covering.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny thing, Marty just commented, as you sent me this content to be something that we're going to cover, the first person I thought about was actually Marty. Marty Bahama. Marty Human is actually his real name. But, at some point, I think, Jaime, it'd probably be a good idea to have Marty come in and talk about these groups, because that's what he does, right? Because I think one of the strategies that we're going to talk about is actually buying groups. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. But, as I think about the process and we dive into these things that we're going to accomplish throughout the podcast, I just think about the amount of people you can help if you just focus. Let's call it 90 days, right? That's one of the big memes or one of the big Instagram posts that we see. If you can focus for 90 days, you can be 6 years ahead or 5 years ahead. It's really true at the end of the day, right? So as you think about this process, as Jaime said, don't create 100 different groups and then not do the content and then not manage people and not respond to people, because if you do that, your group's going to fall flat. But if you focus on people, send a weekly message even to your group members, people are going to appreciate that more, because that one-on-one contact is something that's just not out there anymore, right? Unless it's like your direct family member. I was getting, sometimes I get a ride to work, right? I get like an Uber here, and I was talking to the driver, and she was saying how she didn't even know who her neighbor was, right? And they live right next to the door to each other. They're coming up the elevator. He hit floor 5. She was like, "Oh, I'm getting off at floor 5." They walk to their doors, and they're right next to each other. They live next to each other for a full year, right? So as we talk about these Facebook groups, you think about that, and you say, okay, if I have 100, 1,000, 10,000 members, most of them will probably not know me unless I reach out to them. Right? They'll know my face, they'll know who I am, kind of, but I don't know anything about them. And that's where the difference is. You need to ask about them. Hey, how's your business going? What's going on? Hey, are you looking for a one bedroom? Are you downsizing in the future? Are you still renting? Like, those type of questions are the things that are going to grow your group exponentially and grow the engagement and grow your business exponentially, versus creating 500, 600, 700 groups or whatever, 10 groups, and trying to manage all that. Be consistent. If you're more consistent in the group, you're gonna make more money at the end of the day, and you're gonna help more people.
100%, 100%. So let me put a bookend to an open thought that we opened up when it came to the types of groups, and then we'll get into the main subject of the starting the groups or buying groups and other strategies that we have. So to put a book into the original, buy, sell, trade groups, the real estate groups, this is taking the assumption that you're leveraging somebody else's success already. And you're going in there and contributing. So this is the contribution aspect, and you're contributing information, answering questions for one, but also presenting information that helps other people. Because then, back to your point, Joseph, you are being seen as not only the professional, but the authority in whatever information you're covering. So if you're going into these types of groups, again, this doesn't work in all groups. That's why I made it a point to identify 2 types of groups where this actually does work. Well, in reality, a lot of other groups can work, but these are just 2 primary ones that get you a little bit closer to the end goal of getting leads, getting commission, helping more people. So going into these groups and contributing either by answering questions that have to do with real estate, or preparing a long form post, or just something that is actually of value that you comment in these groups. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you talk about, you'll probably hear me mention this in several podcasts in the future, but when you talk about Gary Vee, when he started, right, one of the things he talked about was contribution, right? Contribution, the jab, 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 hook, right? So it's like jab, 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 then ask. So, and ask for the sell or ask for business or whatever the case is. But the more you can contribute, you guys will have to excuse the noise that's about to happen. They're working on a rooftop over here. The more you can contribute to a group and to the conversation and become an authority in a group, the bigger of an asset you become to the other people in that group, right? So, for example, the new real estate agents group, there are people asking questions in there all the time. I typically don't go help as much as I used to. One, because I've learned a couple of things about what we call edge ranking in Facebook, meaning that if I comment on somebody's post, then they're going to get the credit from me because my account technically holds more strength than a lot of accounts. And that's definitely not bragging, right? It's just something that's behind the closed doors that most people don't know about. Is if, let's say, another marketer comments on something and then I go comment, or they create a post and then I go comment on that post, they're going to get a lot more people interested in their thing than if I didn't comment, because it's going to say, hey, Joseph Gonzalez has now commented. Joseph Gonzalez has joined this conversation, right? But for those of you who don't have that same, issue that I have whenever going into groups, I highly suggest what Jaime said. Go in there. So if somebody's asking about, hey, I'm looking for an area to open a business. Hey, I'm looking for, the best area with the best parks to take my children to play in, right? What's the best school in this city, right? What do you guys suggest? Go in there and obviously you have to be careful with your real estate laws, right? But you can go in there and send them a private message to say, hey, here's some places to consider, or here's a website that lists these schools, or here's a website that lists the playgrounds. Here's a website that tells you the crime rate. If you want to open a restaurant, and you want a certain crime rate level. Here are places to go. So contributing to the conversation helps you become an authority figure. Once you become an authority figure, people will seek you to find more information from you. And that's really, it's a full circle process, but you've got to be able to contribute. So that's just one of the strategies within groups to really get people interested in what you have to talk about at the end of the day, right?
For sure. So what you're mentioning there, Joseph, well, you mentioned quite a few items there, but one of the things that I got away with when you're going through that example, at bare minimum, you're increasing your SOI, your sphere of influence, at bare minimum. Whether you decide to do anything with that new relationship or that new friendship, that's up to you. But at the bare minimum, you increased your SOI, which real estate agents, that is a very valuable thing to have, a larger sphere of influence, because that's 100%. More people that you can help. So at bare minimum, if you do it wrong, you at least have a larger SOI.
Well, yeah. And so, well, I think that's great, right? So if I can capitalize on that and help other people understand this idea of having a larger SOI, your SOI sphere of influence are people who are directly connected to you that may or may not do business with you. Hopefully they do business with you, but it gives you just more people that you can present information to. So one of the strategies, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, that I've been doing and teaching for years, it's very simple. And again, this is coming from a place of contribution, right? As a business owner, as a real estate agent. You go into these local Facebook groups, you simply post, what business do you run? Comment down below, comment your Facebook group down below, or your Facebook page down below, so we can support your local business. You're going to get hundreds of people to comment. Always the next step is, what are you doing after that? Are you having conversations with the people? Are you sending them a direct message? Are you saying, hey, thanks for commenting. I went and liked your business page. Here's my business page. I would appreciate it. By the way, can we also exchange information? Boom, your sphere of influence will grow by hundreds within the week if you do the second step. So, again, that's coming from a place of contribution because you're supporting their business, and then in turn asking them if they'll support your business. And without even saying, hey, are you looking to buy or sell? They should know that if you're a real estate agent, that's what you do, right? But now you're supporting their business. With most real estate agents aren't going out there and doing that, and you can do that digitally without going out. You can save so much time and grow a sphere of influence like that, right?
100%. And where you take that to that exponential level, again, we're just talking about, leveraging somebody else's success. Where you take that another level, that's starting your own group. Now, you can get some practice. You can see how the admins do it, how moderators do it when you join groups that have 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 members in that group. So you start seeing the spammers. You start seeing
Yeah.
the inappropriate stuff. You start seeing all that other stuff. So you see the system that's created. So the new real estate agents group, that's a great that's a great follow, and that's a great group to be part of. So strongly suggest that you join it. But you start seeing what's working, what's not working, how things are being done. So you get some practice, and yes, you're going to contribute and all that fun stuff. But where you take it to that next level is by going out and creating a group.
Yeah.
And this is where we kind of go back to the whole understanding of the premise of these groups are topic centric. If you want to cover, let's just say, let's go with real estate in some capacity. So first time home buyers. If you want to make that group about first time home buyers, and you just drop all of these blogs, all of these posts, all of these videos, all of these resources that are going to help people, they're going to go tag somebody else. They're going to go out and there's strategies on growing your group, to Joseph's point, and you're going to start getting all of these warm leads that are joining your group. So one of the quick tips is, when you're growing out your group, you leave it fairly open, where you don't ask for too much information out front. In fact, you don't ask for information out front. You just approve. But there becomes a critical mass. I believe that's probably I think I'm using that correctly. Right. There's critical mass where you put a little gate. You put a little gate. Do you own a home? You start asking questions, and I think you can do up to 3 questions. It may have changed, but you can ask questions up front before you allow people in. And, full disclosure, with these types of groups that are being managed by real estate agents that are specifically deploying this strategy for buyers and sellers, if you're a real estate agent, don't count on getting allowed into that group. But that's why there's that value in you knowing what's going on and having information to this podcast. So a 5-star is all we ask in Apple, and you share it with an agent that would benefit. See that subtle plug, Joseph? I'm proud of that one.
Good. That's very good.
So you start being aware of these types of strategies that you can deploy yourself. At the end of the day, like we mentioned at the beginning, it's free, but that's how you level up. You create your own group. You start growing it faster. There's different strategies that we can cover and later on, but then you put a little filter, you put a little gate out front, and allow people that you want to contribute into the group.
Yeah, that's great, right? That's a great strategy. I think if you're starting off a group, first-time homebuyers is a great place to start. But asking those couple of questions, you can even ask, are you buying your first home or your second home? Are you planning on selling your home? And ask for email, right? So then you can start your newsletter and start sending out information. Again, that's once you get to, let's say you get to 100, 500 people, then you're like, okay, I want to start getting some information from people. And you can also send them a direct message after they join the group. I know a guy who does that. They send a direct message to anybody who requests. They approve them, and then they say, hey, thanks for joining the group. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know, right? And they're like, and so that's how they start the conversation off. As you were talking about that, I thought about another strategy that we've talked about. So let's talk to our senior agents that may watch this, right? I say senior or veteran agents, don't want to step on any silver foxes out there on their toes, but our veteran agents that are out there. So always toeing the line, So as we talk about our veteran agents, they think, well, why would I create a Facebook group? What's that going to do? How's that going to help me? Well, let's say you've closed over 100 deals, which some people do that in a year. Some people take, 4 or 5 years to do that, 20 deals in 5 years, right? Once you close over 100 deals, one of the books that I've read out there and some of the information that I've read, and I've talked about this for 4 or 5 years now myself, and it says, if you close over 100 deals, you should never have to go seek leads. And if you are, that's only because you want to make more money, right? Which is fine. That's part of life. And you pay your bills, whatever, right? Have extra vacation money, whatever, investing. So what you do as a veteran agent is, if you close over 100 deals, is you create a VIP group, right? There's a woman out there, a woman real estate agent who's a fantastic agent. She does great work. She's actually with EXP now, I believe. Her name is Shannon. I can't think of her last name.
Okay.
It used to be Rev, I think, was the real estate agent group she was with before. But anyway, what Shannon does, and I've talked about this for years. Shannon and I actually had a phone call early on in my career because I was always looking for, hey, what are the top agents doing around the U.S., not just in my market, right? I took agents out to lunch to learn what they were doing. But the thing that she did, which really interested me because I'm such a social media nerd, she created a VIP group. In the VIP group, they are all her past clients and their family members. I want you to think about that for a minute. If you have all your past clients and they are inviting their family members to get to know you as a real estate professional. So let's say you close over 100 deals. They have cousins, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers. Only the ones they probably like are going to be invited to the group, not all of them. But you have 100 past clients plus, their 3 or 4 contacts that they're inviting. So now we're talking about you're 3Xing, 4Xing your contact rate in a local market of 400 people that either want to buy, have bought, or looking to sell a home. In that VIP group, they do things like drop Home Depot cards in there. They drop Starbucks cards in there once a week, a Target card, a local restaurant once a week. So you think about your marketing dollars. If I have a VIP Facebook group as a senior agent, these are people that I trust and that trust me and that like me and that I hopefully like them as well. And I'm dropping this information to them and I'm spending $300-$400 a month to stay in front of these people versus going out and finding new people, right? These people know that I've already worked with their cousin, aunt, uncle, sister, brother, mom, dad, whoever, and I've helped them buy a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house. Of course, they're going to trust me now, and I'm just staying in front of them. You can drop your newsletter in there. You can send them personal messages. You can say happy birthday to the person. You can record a video. All these things that you can do. Once you're a senior agent, you have over 100 deals. You never have to look for business again. The business will come to you. But most people don't think about that next level. They're all like, I need to go. Everybody's like, I need to go find more. I need to go find more. I need to go find more. Whenever the whole cake is sitting in front of you already, right? So that's for the veteran agents, if you will. That's a tip for you. If you implement that strategy, I guarantee you'll never have to look for business again. Just wait for your phone to ring. You'll close however many deals a year, right?
I love it. I love it. And you know what that made me think about, Joseph, was the appreciation dinners that real estate agents do, the renting out of movie theaters that agents do. Mm-hmm. Well, that takes some money. So that's one. It takes money. But also, I mean, this, again, we're speaking to the veteran agents, the one that have quite a few amount of transactions. So they actually have somebody to invite instead of, maybe 3 deals a year, then small party. No offense, but it's a small party. I think that's an objective truth. But it makes me think about that appreciation dinner. It makes me think about those movie theaters. But a huge difference between that is, well, one, it's online. So there's that differentiation. It's cheaper and there's more touch points. They can be every week, every month, every day, however active you want to be, as opposed to leading up to just one huge event and hoping that they remember you the 364 other days, right? So it is just, I'm not saying don't do the appreciation dinners or movie theaters, but as you were sharing that example, that's something that you can add to if you are dead set on renting out a bar and, having fun. But when it comes to, those touch points and a quick way to gather up your entire database and have one centralized location to drop value and continue that conversation, in addition to adding them to your personal friends list, that just seems like a very leveraged idea.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about this, it's all about leverage once you start growing these groups, right? That's what you're doing. You're just growing your personal authority with people, right? Just like if you see a popular TV star, a popular athlete, any type of popular person, you're going to want to be around that person, right? Let's say, for example, even somebody you don't like, if they're popular and they're coming to your city, you'll be like, I'm gonna go check it out because maybe some of that fame will rub off on me, right? And it's the same thing as a real estate agent. Like, you become a superstar, if you will, in your market, right? And people will want to be around you. They'll want to introduce people to you. So if you do these things, like the movie thing, and I'll give you another example that I really like is actually something that we talked about implementing right before I left the States was implementing. You go to these new construction, these builders, right? And you say, hey, look, this is something that I want to do. I want to help you grow your, not just the people that have already bought, but I want them to be able to bring people to you. And they're like, well, how do we do that? Do we do a movie night at our place, or what do we do? And it's like, no, you do it like you have a playground or something that's already there, right? It's established in the new neighborhood. We're talking about new construction. Again, we always talk about new construction. You say, bring a food truck, bring a ice cream truck, bring a snow cone truck, right? And of course, depending on where you're, maybe a hot cocoa truck if you're in Iowa, or Denver where it snowed last week. But you bring things into the new construction. You bring the ideas to these new construction, these builders, and say, here's what we can do. If you want to do this, I'll partner with you. I'll pay for part of it. But I want to be the real estate agent to be able to hand out my car that day, or hand out thank you letters. Don't even just hand out your card. Hand out a thank you letter. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you. If your kids need anything, if you need anything, please let me know. And so you do that. You get their contact information, and you grow your group that way, right? So there's a ton of different strategies to grow your group, but it's all about getting to that end process and being able to convert people into clients, right, and contracts.
100%. 100%. Well, Joseph, let's go into another, we just talked about that next level, which was starting your group. Let's go to another type of level, which is, now, full disclosure here, we did mention free in the title. So this next strategy, giving you that disclosure, is not free, but it's highly effective. There's two strategies. One we alluded to a little bit earlier when it comes to you actually buying these groups. So that is something that is out there. So we can table that for 2 seconds while I bring up the other strategy, which you dropped in 2-3 podcasts ago that we had a few people comment about and ask about, which was paying for the shout out. So paying these groups that are already massive, some of them may be larger than others, and paying several dollars to be in front of that audience. Now, full disclaimer, that's something that Joseph and I respect. We do. Sorry. So Joseph and I do in the new real estate agents group, which is paid promotion. So in a large following that's been cultivated by the founder, by the moderators, and everything else like that, we pay for the access. And that's something that you can absolutely do in your market as well. And then here, you don't have to only talk about real estate or buy paid promotion for the real estate groups, because chances are it's actually a real estate agent that started that group. So that's not going to be the best use of your efforts. But you can go into different groups. Like there's a lot of moms groups. There's a lot of dads groups. There's a lot of any other types of groups out there that don't necessarily talk about what you're talking about. However, they have a massive following and a highly engaged following, just in a different topic. So you have to craft your message whenever you're doing that shout out. But it's no different than running something like a Facebook ad, except you are providing that message in front of everybody else, and you're getting that slight nod. See that little nod right there?
Yeah, that's good. That's good visual.
I'm glad this is a podcast. You're getting that slight nod from the admin and moderators, and you're being in front of all these people that know, like, and trust the moderators and other people. So if they let you post whatever it is that you're posting, then there's that there's that nod, which I won't do again because it's a podcast.
Well, let's take it a step further. So let's say you're doing the paid promotion like we do, right? You can even go to the admin of the group and say, hey, look, you started the group. You have the quote unquote edge rank power. Can you post this for me? Right? I'm already paying you. it'd be fantastic if you could help me out a little bit by posting this, because people, they know, like you said, Jaime, they know, like, and trust you because you started the group and they know that. Would you be okay posting this if I give you the content? Here's the content I'm thinking about posting. Would that be okay with you? Right? And getting them to post it for you and tag you in the post. Like, example, hey, does anybody want, would anybody like the first time home buyers list that that one of our sponsors has created, right? Or first time home buyers process packet, right? And so as a real estate agent, you go in, you talk to the moderator of the group or the admin of the group and say, hey, look, I'd like to pay you X amount of dollars to be a sponsor of this group, to be able to post X amount of times per month, per week, whatever your relationship is with that moderator or becomes. But then you start getting them to post for you. And then whenever people say yes, they say comment FTHB, first time home buyer. Whenever they comment, now you have the opportunity to reach out to them and say, hey, are you thinking about buying your first house? I want to be able to send you the packet. What's your email? What's your phone number? Right? Now you're growing your sphere of influence that way. And you've paid, you know, we typically say spend at least $10 a day on Facebook ads, right? So that's $300 a month, or $310, depending if there's 31 days, or February, leave you, 28, 280. But you look at that process and say, okay, I'm going to spend $300 anyway, right? But now I'm looking at this specific Facebook group that has 20, 30, 15,000 people in it. The moderator's posting, I'm able to post in here 2-3 times a week. I'd rather do that and have this catered audience that I am able to speak to, and, you know, use what we call the law of attraction to get people interested in what I have to give them. And now, by paying somebody who already owns this group, I'm narrowing down who my buyer list is, and I'm not getting these people that I may not want to work with that are probably outside of my market sometimes, just because of the way Facebook ads work these days. So yeah, I'm 100% on board for sponsored, for paying for sponsorship in a group. It's a smart play, in my opinion. That's why I did
it. This is true. This is true. Well, so I want to talk about two important things that are going to be the drivers of the success of that one strategy.
Yeah.
One, you already alluded to, you know, having that, I keep wanting to go back to the nod, but I'm going to stop. Having that, you know, the admin post and, you know, essentially vouch for you. But so the first thing that you need to do with those types of posts and those types of shout outs, you need to have a lead magnet. You need to have an offer. You need to have something that's going to motivate somebody to reach out to you. Simply having the admin say, hey, this is Jaime Resendez. He's the best real estate agent in town. Use him. That may work, but it's not going to be that effective. Yeah. Having somebody else just like promote you and elevate you, that's too obvious. Just to be candid with you, that is way too obvious to consumer. Not that we're trying to trick the consumer, but at the end of the day, we're trying to at least reduce that friction whenever somebody says real estate agent, right? Yeah. So there's that defense, oh, real estate agent, I'm done. You know, it's very much the same thing that the stigma that happens with, I very rarely bring this up, but EXP Realty, like with other real estate agents, I'm with EXP Realty, whoop, the barriers are up that not going to talk about you and all that stuff, not going to talk to you anymore because you're going to try to, you know, attract me or recruit me. But so there's that, that's the first thing. But the second thing is, which brings us back to the very first point, it's following up and having a conversation. If you came to this podcast thinking, oh, they're going to give me the secrets to Facebook groups, all I have to do is post one thing and boom, I'm going to get thousands of leads. There are strategies to get a good amount of leads and get to that level. But at the end of the day, that is not sustainable. And yeah, you're going to get that type of content in these groups. But at the end of the day, we're going much further and much deeper than that by providing you these other strategies. So there is an element of work that is involved with having these conversations. So we don't want to give that illusion that this is a magic pill and this is all you have to do is copy and paste and boom, you're on your way. Because even that does involve a lot of follow-up. So one, have something of value, have an offer, but two, please follow up, please have a conversation. Please know that there's an element of courting. There's an element of conversion. You stop marketing at some point, and then sales takes over. There's those two things. You're marketing, which is what we're talking about. At some point, sales has to happen.
You mean there's work involved after the initial post is what you're saying, Jaime? You're telling people
for the 12th time.
You're telling people they have to work is what you're saying, right? Yeah, no, look, if we're talking about follow-up, right? Client attraction, I can teach you client attraction all day, right? There's no question about it. There's, as Jaime said, there's no magic pill to this process. There's things that can draw people in, but then there's work that has to be done after, and that's the follow-up. I'll give you a post right now. You can go, if you have some groups that you can go post in for free.
Wait, time. Let me get the PayPal email up. Let me get Patreon up real quick. Let's get the Square app, because I know it's about to happen. But continue.
Okay, so if you have some groups you can go post in for free without getting blocked or kicked out or put in Facebook jail or whatever have you. Here's a strategy that can get you leads today, right now. You can go do it now or do it in the morning, because people might be going to sleep. But what you're going to do, JD said, so you're telling me I have to call my leads. So what you can go do is you go into this group right now or tomorrow, just write this down. And you say, who's looking to buy their first home, ? Would you like my first time, if you would like my first time home buyers strategy packet, comment packet down below. And get ready. People are going to be commenting packet like crazy. Now, after they've done that, this is what Jaime was saying, you've got to do your job and you've got to reach out to them. By the way, if you don't have a packet, go to the big Google, Google, and search first-time homebuyers packet, first-time homebuyers strategy, first-time homebuyers steps, and then create a packet from that. Go to what is it called? The place where you can create stuff for free.
Canva?
Can't think of it. Canva. Go to canva.com, create a free account with your Facebook account, and boom, now you can create stuff. You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have leads tomorrow. You can send me PayPal money later on. All right, I'm done.
I like it. See, that's why people tune in, man. That's why people tune in. That we've and I really do. I know I kind of said that in gist or in fun, but it's those actionable strategies that are so effective. And I think that, sometimes we just overcomplicate it. Sometimes, I myself included, I guess I'm speaking more to myself than anybody else. We just complicate it so much. There's strategies like that. And here's the thing. Here's one huge item to remember. Let's just say you go and do that and it doesn't work today.
Yeah.
It will work, but let's just say it doesn't work today. Try it again tomorrow.
That's all you have to do. Try again
the next day. Try it again the next day. And you know what? At the end of the day, if you saw no action within those first 7 days, then get better friends. But maybe not. But you tried it for 7 days. That there's people spending thousands of dollars on direct mail and waiting 6 months, waiting 12 months, praying that somebody calls, praying that they actually pick up when they call. And why are we so hesitant to take those strategies like that and just, turn our nose to them? Why is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one great illustration of something that's super actionable. We spoke through theory ad nauseum for the first 20 minutes of this podcast, but now you're seeing all of the actionable ways to deploy this.
Yeah.
I guess I just went on a rant there. So going to the next topic, which we just went out of the paying for promotion, paying for groups. So think of it like ads. So make sure that you bookmark this part of the podcast. So if you want to deploy that strategy. But let's talk about the whole buying of Facebook groups, Joseph, because I think most people will kind of see they're starting to see the power of Facebook groups, but we're thinking a little bit bigger now.
Yeah.
One would want to get bigger and actually buy Facebook, but that's not possible right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see that check.
But the next best thing, Joseph, is to buy an audience within that Facebook group. So that is another level. And you were mentioning Marty, that Marty is phenomenal at that. That's something that he teaches and shares with people. So he is somebody that I feel comfortable endorsing, Joseph. I think that you feel the same way when it comes to that particular niche. So is there anything that you'd like to elaborate on the buying Facebook groups?
Yeah, that's never been my strategy. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, because Marty's got tons and tons of testimonials that prove that that's a right strategy, right? It's just, for my focus, I've never had the time to really dive in as deep as Marty has with those groups. And he's been doing it for, and Marty can correct me if he's still watching this, 4 or 5 plus years, right? Doing the strategy. And we're talking groups of 40, 50,000 people. Sometimes they can buy them for like $100, $200, $300, depending on the strategy. And I think they even have a strategy to go out and find groups that you can buy.
Yep.
So to elaborate on it just a bit more, at the end of the day, think about Facebook this way. And you have to think about Facebook groups in the same manner. And if you haven't gone out and watched, there's a new Netflix documentary on why Facebook and all these companies were created in the first place. It just came out, and I think it's called The Social.
Yeah, I saw that. The Social something.
Yeah. So Social something or another, but go look that up. It'll really give you some insight into exactly what we're talking about here. Anyway, the idea is data collection. You're collecting people, collecting humans. Humans are your data. They give you this data. If you can go out and buy a Facebook group of, let's say, 20,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30, 40,000, whatever, however big the buy, sell, trade groups, right? The garage sale groups that are out there, and we all know about them. If you can go out and buy that, and then you know how to do the deep dive into how to get their attention, you can have a business that is never ending from these groups. I mean, you can create a full rental business from it. From there, you create a full first-time home buyers group from it. From there, you create first-time home sellers. You can create investors out of one group if you do a deep dive. Now, what I see the problem is, and Marty can probably talk about this at some point, maybe we'll have him on the podcast at some point as well, bring him on to have the conversation, is the problem is these agents are buying these groups. They're buying them at a rapid pace, but they don't know how to manage them, right? They know how to get some clients from it, but there's certain things and tricks that you don't know unless you're diving really deep to understand how to get people interested and then put them where you need to put them. So almost got a cramp. That's what happens when I run 5 miles. So I'll give you an example. So let's say, for example, and hopefully Marty can share this with his people. If I have a Facebook group that I purchased and I want people to tell me if they're buyers or sellers, first-time home buyers, if they bought or sold or not, you just create a poll in the group, right? Create a Facebook poll. Hey, have you bought who has not bought their first home before? Put a yes or no. Who has not invested in their first home before? Who has sold a home? Who is thinking about selling a home? Who is thinking about buying a home, right? Make it an event, then make it an announcement in the group, right? By doing that, you're creating groups of people that you can now segment. Once these people have commented, you add them as a friend, and then you create your friends list specific to each type of person. I'll give you an example. If I create the poll that says, who is still renting, right? Hundreds of people comment, or hundreds of people select the poll. I click on the poll, I can see who's done that. And then I go add them as a friend. And as I add them as a friend, or if you're in my business, you have a virtual assistant, add them as a friend, right? The virtual assistant will then create a specific friends list that says renters only, right? So now we start marketing content specifically to the renters, right? Now we have hundreds of renters. First-time home buyers thinking about buying a home. First-time FTHB consideration. Now we're marketing to them, right? And we're also sending them personal messages. And then we have current homeowners. Who currently owns a home? Now we have homeowners. So I have this group of 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people, but there's a next step that most people don't know to do, which is then segmenting these people into lists so that you can market directly to them from your personal page, right? So you're creating a full-on business from Facebook. The problem is, Jaime, is that people won't do that work, right? They can't do that work. They won't even hire somebody to do the work because they don't want to do the work, which doesn't make any sense, because if they did it, they're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing it, but they just won't do it, right? So it's really interesting whenever you think about this process of buying groups. I like it, but the question is always, okay, you bought 10 groups. You bought 10 groups that have 20,000 people. You have 200,000 people to market to. What are you going to do with those people, right?
Yeah.
And that's always the question that I think plagues a lot of people is, are you going to do the work behind what you just tried to accomplish, right?
I'm glad that you went there, Joseph, because as you were talking, I wrote down who is still renting and just going on that example. And so you ended up the example with, the realization of there's work involved. And I'm sorry to keep coming back to it. I'm not really sorry. We will continue coming back to it, because again, we don't want to give any false myth or do any pie in the sky type of expectations. There is an element of work involved, but to your point, there's very few that are willing to do that. So just from that question, the reason that I wrote it is, who is still renting? Well, I don't want to categorize, but people that either don't have the down payment, or they just don't want to buy, or maybe it's not the right time, or they're credit challenged. There is a little bit more work, generally, not all the time, involved with that type of, conversion into the client. So not only are you going to get flooded with messages, which can be overwhelming, but most people don't know to do that next step, to your point, Joseph. But even less amount of people, now knowing what they know, are going to be willing to put in that work in helping somebody. And you're legitimately helping somebody that has no idea how to get into their first home. Or maybe you're going to run into some gyms that have that 20% down, that have a good score, or whatever the case may be. But those are I'm not going to say that they're rare, but they're not as common if you're asking specifically that question, and several others. So again, just want to emphasize the work aspect of it, and the type of, specifically to this type of question, the types of leads that you're going to be working with. So you need to have that work ethic, discipline, patience, and just, I guess, not perseverance. You just need to continue following up to where there's ultimately, we started the podcast with this, leads turning into commission checks and helping somebody at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that more people would do the follow-up, right? Whether it's paid, whether it's free, whatever the case is, you bought a group. That's, and I was talking to JD about this the other day. That's where the money is, right? Fortune is in the follow-up. We've heard it for years, but now we're drilling down on specifically what you need to do in order to get these people converted into business, right? And if you're willing to do it, there's money to be made. Just got to do it.
Awesome. Joseph, I think it's a good time to present your new group strategy. We mentioned it briefly in another podcast, early podcast. I think it was episode 3. I believe it was episode 3. But I think it's appropriate, since we're talking about Facebook groups, I think it's appropriate to drop that new the messenger group strategy, which again, I said it to you back then and I'll say it to you now. It's something that I have not seen apply ever. So this one is the you birthed this one. I mean, you've birthed a lot of other strategies, but this one, there's no you have the forefront. You're at the forefront with this.
Sure. Yeah. So the strategy Jaime is talking about that we utilize on a daily basis, to be honest with you, is, let's say, I'll use it from a real estate perspective, right? And then I'll give the example of how I do it. Let's say we go back to the first-time homebuyer strategy, and you've sponsored a post in the group, and somebody says, "Hey, I want your first-time home buyer packet." Then what you do is you create a Facebook Messenger group, not a Facebook group. You create a Facebook Messenger group, meaning that anybody who comments, you add them to this Messenger group. and you just write in there, hey, no need to comment in here. This is where I'm going to drop the content so everybody can get it faster, right? And then each person that said they wanted that, you add them to the messenger group, right? And as you add them to the messenger group, you now have their attention captured, right? You can add them as a friend, so forth and so on. And then you can share the information that you want to share, your first-time homebuyer packet, your first-time seller packet, whatever that thing is that you're going to share, you have direct attention. It's like literally picking up the phone and sending out a group text, right? It's the exact same strategy, but now it's done through Facebook Messenger. And if you can do that and you can get people into that direct messenger group, you have their attention, they're going to see your material. They have no chance of not seeing your material unless they leave the group, which is perfectly fine. Some people come in, get the information, they'll leave. They may not want to be in the group, whatever the case is. The idea is that if you can get there, if they were interested in what you're offering and now you're given the ability to get it, that's sharing of information, right? The way we use it, let's say, for example, we have a free Facebook ads course, right? And what we do is anybody who's interested in the free Facebook ads course, we add them to the messenger group. So it's like free Facebook ads course messenger group. And then we add them to the group and we say, welcome to the group. Here's the content that you requested, right? And the idea behind that is that it allows us to have their attention. So let's say we come out with a new program. For instance, we have, I don't know if JD's still watching, we're doing a ISA program, 90-day ISA program. And we're allowing people to come into the program for extremely, I don't like the word cheap, but for a very, very great price to come in and test an ISA for 90 days. And with that, the idea is that we're showing people, hey, this is how you convert business with an ISA, following up with your leads for you. And so anybody who's interested in that, whenever they comment ISA, we drop them into the ISA informational group, right? Instead of the Facebook group, because the Facebook group, they're not going to see my content as much, right? Only a small fraction of them, a small percentage. But in the Messenger group, 100% of people will see that information. So that's the strategy that we use on a daily basis. And I tell you what, you want people's attention, that's the way to do it. You want people to get mad at you, that's also the way to do it. But they only get upset whenever a ton of people start having conversations that they don't need to have. And at that point, we kick people out because we don't have time for spam. The whole point of the group is to get them the information that they requested.
Yeah.
Hopefully that hits what you wanted me to discuss there, Jaime.
No, that's perfect. You hit all the angles there. And one of the things that you mentioned there at the very end, kicking out the people that don't have Facebook Messenger etiquette. That's basically it, because that can get frustrating. They just don't have the etiquette on how to communicate. It's almost like that person that replies reply all just to say thank you.
Yes,
it's that person,
exactly.
right? So there's that to an email. So we all know those people that receive an email. It's basically 50 people in that thread, and they reply all just to say thanks.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't necessarily know how to operate in that environment, in the Facebook Messenger environment. So you kick those out. And something else that you mentioned, those are people that are active and they themselves are telling you how active they are. There's going to be some people that leave. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
They came in, they got what they wanted. You delivered on your end. And these types of groups, they'll gradually go larger, go larger. They may not hit the 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. You don't need to, because that would actually be a nightmare. But you're going to continue cycling in people that are interested. And this isn't to say that you should pick one over the other. This works in tandem. This works in tandem to the traditional Facebook groups that we started the podcast on. And the strategy that Joseph is mentioning is very, very, very important to highlight it here. Facebook Messenger groups. A lot of people still don't know that you can create multiple threads from that. It's a great way that a lot of people can communicate. It can be on a topic. It can be on whatever it is in that regard. But so just be aware of the distinctions there.
Yeah. I'll give one more example, Jaime.
All right.
And so this is something that I typically don't share, but it's a great strategy. So let's say you're looking to grow your Facebook group. What you're going to do is you do the same strategy, first-time home buyers packet. And this can be used for anything, whatever you're offering. And you say, who's interested in first-time home buyer? Who's thinking about buying the first home? I have a first-time home buyer packet you can get for free. They go into the messenger group. As they're in the messenger group, you actually don't give them the content. You send them a link to your Facebook group, right? In your Facebook group, the content's then posted as a pinned post. In the pinned post, there's a video of you talking. Some people watching this know exactly what I'm talking about because that's what I did. They just didn't know the strategy, right? So then they go to the Facebook group. You say, hey, thanks so much for joining, for your interest in the first-time homebuyers packet. Here's the link to the Facebook group. Request to join, and once you do, it's in the pinned post. They'll request to join. You can get their email, whatever information you want to get from them. They join the group. They go to the packet. In the video and in the statement in the pinned post, it tells them to comment. Hey, I'm a first-time home buyer. Hey, I'm looking to be an investor, whatever. And they self-identify who they are, but they've also gotten the content, right? So now, again, you're talking about working in tandem. That messenger group, the whole point is to get them content, but you're also getting them into your group, right? And so that's how we've grown our group to 800 plus people in the last couple of months, because that's just a strategy we use, and it's very effective. And people are thankful. Some people are very thankful. Some people are like, why do I have to join a group? And we explain to them, why they have to join the group. And if they want the content, that's where the content is hosted, right?
You mean somebody has to give something that's completely free to get a ton of value back? Come on, people are not going to complain about that, are they?
Yeah, right.
That
I could. I'm not even gonna go down that route.
I'll go down that route. Why do I need to give you my email? It's anyway. Okay, I was about to go off. Okay, so here we go. Going down into something else, and then we can do the dismount, Joseph. This one is a longer podcast, but we knew that going in, that there's just so many different avenues to take Facebook groups. I think the audience can appreciate this. So Facebook groups, that's what everything that we've been talking about in this podcast, and we've been talking about the B2C, so directly to the consumer, directly to the clients. Let's talk about leveraging Facebook groups with the peers, so other real estate agents, other real estate professionals. There are still some folks that are not aware that there are gold mines in these other groups. So whether there's new real estate agents groups, whether there's other, we're not going to name all the other larger groups, but there's other real estate agent centric groups that you can extrapolate referrals from. You can get those all day, because again, you don't have to be licensed in all 50 states in order to partake in referrals. Some referrals, they're going to have, a very small referral fee attached to them. Some of them are a little bit heavier, but at the end of the day, if these are leads that all it takes for you to be vigilant and turn on that notification tab whenever you join that referral group, that's all they do. Somebody that is moving to Dallas, somebody that's moving to Seattle, which I don't think many people are doing that right now, but all of these other, you like that shade? You like that shade?
Literal shade.
Hey, sorry, Washington State people. You're not California. Oh, got him again, Joseph.
I'm staying out of that.
We just lost the entire West Coast.
Love everybody in the West Coast.
The Zucks just shut off our account. No, so really you can partake in referral fees all over the place. You just have to be vigilant. So I think that's a huge opportunity that we're missing.
Yeah. I think in the sharing economy that we're in, right, that we've started going in, I think since, all these companies were created, what was that, 2006 maybe? I don't know what year it was, but we talk about all these companies starting to be created. It's all about being able to understand what you're trying to get from these groups, right? As we discussed earlier. And if you can understand that the whole point of joining some of these real estate specific groups, meaning that they're real estate agent or peer-to-peer, is to be able to get business and get ideas from people, right? You may not serve the same market, but maybe a strategy is very effective in one market and it's okay for you to reach out to the person and say, hey, is it okay if we use a strategy in this market? I think it's a fantastic strategy. Would love to use it. Because in the sharing economy that we're in now, there's so much information out there. It's all about finding what works and then utilizing it, because there's so much stuff that's out there that doesn't work, right? So yeah, I agree with you. Join these groups that are real estate specific. You can just search real estate agent. Be careful not to be sold on some stuff that may not work, right? Because there's a lot of that that's going on as well. But I think it's always worth the chance to join these groups and see if there's any free strategies out there. And the best way to do that is, once you join these groups, is just type in leads, right? Literally in the search bar, once you join the group, type in leads. And I guarantee you there's going to be somebody who commented, this is what's working in my market. And you take that strategy, or you reach out to them and say, hey, is this still working in your market? Fantastic. Is it okay if I use this strategy? I always like to ask, and then test that strategy out on your own market.
Awesome. So Joseph, we did run long on this one, but that's absolutely fine. We got the go ahead from Pat, our producer, to do that. So no, we're not going to get yelled at. Now, as we get ready for the dismount, I just wanted to cover one aspect, and I'll throw it over to you for the closing statements. And I think everybody knows kind of where I'm going already. There is an element of work that has to happen. The expectation of, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in these Facebook groups, and people that are pre-qualified are going to magically come out of nowhere, and I'm going to close all of these deals, help all these people. That's not realistic. I mean, that's not what we're selling you. We're not selling you anything. Unless you want to buy my Facebook group, I'll sell that. So that's not what we're saying here. There's a big element, and Joseph's done a great job covering that. I've done a mediocre job of covering that. The aspect of there has to be some work involved on the end, and at marketing, that's our thing. Sales, our thing as well. But at one point, marketing has to end and sales needs to take over.
Right.
So you just need to make that transition, which AKA is the follow-up that ends up converting leads into commission, into helping people. So those were my parting thoughts, Joseph.
Yeah, I think that's a good closing statement, right? It's I've sat in I always try not to sound boastful whenever I say these things, but I've sat in some business meetings with a couple of major millionaires, right? And so one of the things that we talked about was, what's that?
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyways, so as we sat in these conversations, one of the things that we talked about that I recall I was in Oklahoma actually at one point having this conversation with this guy. And the thing that we said, and this, hopefully some people can take this away, is if you run your own business, marketing and sales have to talk to each other. You are the marketing and sales of your own business. In a larger corporation, marketing and sales have to discuss things with one another, but they're just in different rooms, right? But one starts the process, one finishes the process. One starts the conversation of what the money looks like, one takes the money, right? So for you as a business owner, you are the upfront, and then you are the follow-up to close the deal. So make sure that you understand that. It's okay to do the marketing. You have to do the marketing, but you also have to be okay with knowing that you have to do the sales. Unless you have buyer's agents, unless you have a team, unless you have all this stuff in the back end, you are everything. So make sure you're doing that, and that's how you make money.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging in there. I know this was a longer podcast, but there was a lot of things that we needed to cover. We weren't going to do the part 1 and part 2 to you. So we just wanted to go ahead and go for it and cover as much as we possibly could when it came to Facebook groups. If there's a loose end that we failed to cover, feel free to reach out to Joseph. Feel free to reach out to myself. Join the Agent Lead Source podcast. That is our group that we have cultivated. We drop a lot of valuable information there as well. So a huge favor before we head out, if you can give us a 5-star review. I mentioned it in the past, if we earned it. If we didn't, then don't review. Only when we earn it. We would love to get that 5-star review from you because it helps us, it motivates us, but also it helps the podcast algorithm. And it's gonna really be a big benefit because it's helping people. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing this for. So if you can do that, huge favor from us, no, from you to us, I guess. But outside of that, this was Facebook group leads, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.